Is Max Caulfield the secret killer of Life is Strange Double Exposure? Did she murder her best friend Safi? For weeks now, fans have been speculating about the next Life is Strange game, whether we'll see the return of previously beloved characters, how much Max will have changed, but hardly anybody's been asking the real questions. Who killed Safi? What motive did they have? And why is Max Caulfield a very likely suspect? Before we get into this video, most people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. If you're new here and you're interested in these kind of videos, consider subscribing for more. It really does help me out. Also, spoilers ahead for Life is Strange 1. So why do I think Max is the villain of Double Exposure? In order to understand why, we first need to familiarise ourselves with a concept called Automax. Superfans of the game may have already heard of this idea before, but for those who haven't, meet Automax. Sort of. Automax is just like Max, only slightly different. Think of her as Max's default state. Before we've made any choices, rewinded time, or even started the game, Automax exists. Automax also takes over when Max is between time jumps. For example, when Max reverses time in order to save Chloe's dad's life, the Max that existed during those 5 years between Chloe's living room and being best friends with Victoria Chase at Blackwell, that's Automax, or at least one version of her. See, Automax is less of a person and more of a concept. She's Max Caulfield, but without that player agency. Think of it this way, when Max steps back into reality after time jumping, she takes over the body of Automax, who is presumably buried with no memory of the situation. In episode 4 of the first game, Max briefly explains this concept to Chloe.
So listen, in a few minutes, I won't know any of this happened. Nothing. You'll have to tell me exactly what I did and said just now. Just explain that I traveled through time using the photo. Will you believe me? I'll always believe you, Chloe.
To Automax, it'll be like she just blacked out for a minute with no memories of the last few moments. Later in the same episode, Max takes over her own body again on the beach, and Chloe tells her, "I see the real Max is back," referring to Max taking over Automax. This is where it gets slightly complicated. Some Automaxes know about time rewinding and others don't. We can see that during the timeline where Max ends up in San Francisco, she still talks about her power during her tests. So this version of Automax is clearly aware she has powers even before we take over her body. However, we only ever see Automax activate under incredibly specific circumstances, when a photo is taken. Max is only ever able to go back in time to the exact moment a photo was taken. When William died, when she took her Everyday Heroes photo, or when Jefferson was photographing her in the darkroom. She awakes in the moment right after the picture was snapped, with all of her memories intact, until she rockets forward in time again and leaves Automax behind to deal with the consequences of whatever she's altered in the timeline. Isn't it interesting then, that Max in Double Exposure seems to suddenly, for no reason, lose consciousness the exact moment she snaps a photograph of the statue outside Caledon University. She falls to the ground with a headache and a nosebleed, something that happened a lot during the first game when Max was messing around with time too much. It's always a sign that she's used her rewind power too much. It happened at the junkyard when Max and Chloe were messing around with the bottles, but in Double Exposure, Max only took a photograph. How the hell could she have used her power? She literally can't use it anymore. Unless another version of Max took over and did it. What if we are playing as a version of Automax? Think about it. Max suddenly blacks out and wakes up with a nosebleed and no memory of the events that just transpired. She chases Safi up a hill and realizes that she's got a bullet wound. There are no footprints in the snow, there's no murder weapon, no sign of a killer at all. From this, we have to deduce that the killer likely has powers too, possibly relating to time. Safi's murder has been described by the developers as impossible, hence why Max is the only one who can solve it by jumping through realities. What if Automax came into our reality through Max's photograph, murdered Safi, and left with the murder weapon before anybody could even notice? It seems like Max being questioned as a suspect will be a bit of a theme throughout Double Exposure given the trailers so far, and we literally don't know anybody else who could have killed her best friend. We have no idea who else has powers on campus. Max is genuinely the only suspect at this point. Okay, so Max has 2 out of 3 of the qualifications to have killed Safi, the means to do it, and the opportunity. But what about the motive? Why on earth would a Max from an alternate reality murder her best friend? There's a myriad of reasons that Automax could have killed Safi. What if this specific Automax was left behind in the alternate timeline of the first game, and Safi was the person who caused Chloe's car accident? Racked with grief and hatred, Automax could have vowed to get her revenge on her. Could happen, but feels unlikely. I think the more likely motivation is that Automax wants to kill Safi for unrelated reasons, possibly for good reasons. The game seems to showcase similar apocalyptic elements to the first game. In this scene, for example, there are 2 moons, the same way there was in Life is Strange 1. That, combined with all the space imagery throughout the game, the meteor shower, the choice icon being a moon, I think it's likely we'll see another apocalypse event. This time though, not a tornado. A meteor. Imagine this. Automax realized that a meteor would hit Caledon University, and so to save Max's life, alongside all of the students and staff at the university, she murdered Safi, altering the course of time and space to save them from that fate. It's a reimagined version of Life is Strange 1's trolley problem, and it would likely mean that the final choice of the game would be between letting Caledon be destroyed and allowing Safi to die. This theory gains even more traction when you realize that the Steam page for the game says decide the fate of Caledon University. Pretty drastic wording, and I'd imagine it spells a similarly drastic outcome. Automax may be trying to sabotage Automax's efforts to find out who killed Safi, and to save the campus from being destroyed by a meteor. We know what DeckNine are like with recycling plot beats from the first game, and given that they're already going for the mess with time to save your best friend's life angle, it wouldn't surprise me if the ending dilemma was similar to that of the first game. But that's just my theory on it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I read all of your comments, and I even use them as inspiration for my future videos. If you did enjoy this video, please subscribe for more Life is Strange content. If you'd like to show your support in the form of a tip, I'll have my Patreon linked in the description too. And join our Discord server, where we discuss all things Life is Strange. With that, I think I've said my piece. Remember to keep your alternate reality self in said alternate reality, and have a nice day. Bye-bye!